Today I've come to the main cemetery in Torquay, known as the Barton Road Cemetery, and I'm just going to have a little walk around and see if we can find some interesting memorials to people and learn a little bit more about the cemetery. I know it was opened in 1852 and has been extended several times. There are two chapels here, one for the CE and one for the nonconformist. It always seems strange when they believe in the same God that they should have a different chapel for the service to send them on their way. Let's see what we can find. We're coming in on the Barton Road entrance, a rather busy road. We've entered the older part of the cemetery, the part that we're interested in visiting. I'll just pan round so you can see the types of stones we have here. There's one here, a sort of castle or steeple-shaped monument, but any inscription has been completely worn off it. There's one here to a chap called Skern Craig, born in Aberdeen, but he went out to Australia and had a large importation business there, and is listed on the stone as one of the founders of Melbourne in Victoria. Came back here to Torquay to retire and is buried in the graveyard here. That is Skern Craig. One here with the broken column, a life cut short, and it's got an interesting name on it. The monument is to Disney Robinson of somewhere in Berkshire, 1804-1869, and there's a stag on a crown at the top of the memorial. There's one here with a statue on top of an angel, I guess, with the wings, and this one is to William Bayliss. A nice, well-kept monument. Interesting one here to Charles Stanley Sharland, who was of New Norfolk in Tasmania. And on the reverse we have a little story about him, how he came to Torquay in 1870, final stages of TB, and the people who enabled this monument to be erected. One here with a very large statue of an angel on top. This is the grave of several members of the Mabin family. The best known grave here in Torquay is the one to Isaac Merritt Singer and other members of his family. Now, Isaac Merritt Singer was born in Pennsylvania and was a larger-than-life character. He was an actor and inventor, and he made improvements to the sewing machine. At that time the sewing machines were quite complex and were really only used in workshops and factories, but he made some improvements to the mechanism. But the biggest thing he did was to make it possible for everybody to buy one by selling them on an instalment plan, something like HP, and therefore every household could then have one of these machines and enable them to do their own dressmaking and clothes making. He became an extremely wealthy man, by today's standards possibly even a billionaire. He came to live in Paignton, and he had a number of partners, 2 or 3 wives, and known to have produced 22 children. Some of them are known in this country still. Mortimer Singer, a racehorse owner, Paris Singer, very prominent in the early days of the automobile, and Washington Singer. If you go to Exeter University, the large building you come to first is the Washington Singer building that he paid for and promoted. Interesting, on the side here, the second name down is Mortimer Singer, and it says he was the eldest son of Isaac Merritt Singer. Well, that's only true of the 5 partners that Singer produced children by. His last partner, then Mortimer, was the eldest, but he was around about the 16th or 17th child of Isaac Singer's in reality. Nearby is an elaborate stone, and beneath it says, "In memory of Rosamond Margaret Jane, the wife of Augustus William Hoffman." The monumental mason here was clearly very keen on these statues of angels or ancient Greek style figures on the gravestones. There are quite a number in this graveyard. There's another one here, a very tall memorial, and if we come down we see that the name on there is for Esther, widow of the late George Porter of Melbourne, Australia. Another connection with Melbourne. One here with an elaborate carving, and underneath, although the inscription is very worn, it seems to say Kitty and then the Baroness of somewhere. Couldn't get more than that at the moment, but an interesting elaborate stone. A life-size figure here of Jesus as the shepherd on this memorial, but again the inscription is very difficult to decipher. Tucked in here amongst all these older stones is a Commonwealth Graves one to Second Lieutenant H.E. Clifton, MC, Military Cross, the Devonshire Regiment, 1916, age 25. Quite impressive one here on 4 columns, but sadly the inscription is long gone. I will say that on this part of the cemetery, the old part at least, it's beautifully cared for. This grass is almost lawn-like, and all the way through these stones, very nicely kept. One here set apart. The memorial has a number of platitudes or sayings on it, but it's not clear from where I am or close up as to what it's for. It may be a war memorial, but there's no real indication. There's a stone here that sadly looks as though it's about to topple forward. Very large stone, but when we look at the memorial lying on the ground, we see it is to Vincent Christopher Clan Brooke, RAF VR, who gave his life on active service September 8, 1940, age 23. Sadly, this one, which would have been a very large monument with a figure on top, has tumbled. One here that catches the eye. The stone is a different colour and the inscription is very, very clear. Brian Bartelot of Ditton, Torquay. Another one of the war graves amongst the very old ones here. Engineer Captain G.K. Edwards RN of HMS Sokoto, 1916. Now there are a lot of war graves in this cemetery. I'm just picking out the ones that are mixed in with the older ones. There are a total of 233 war graves here, 136 from the First World War. There's a cross here. The names are obliterated on the side, but there's quite an optimistic little bit on here. To die is gain. One here with a statue of a lady looking very forlorn. Tucked away here under a tree is a nice clear memorial to Colonel Crawford Haggart, late of the Bombay Army, who died in Torquay, and his widow. There's a nicely carved memorial here, and the name on it is in memory of Radcliffe Hall, son of D.C. Radcliffe Hall. I'll have to excuse the sound of the mowing machines and the strimmers, but we can excuse it because the cemetery is so well kept. There's a nice little one here to Arthur Stevens Philpotts, and various wreaths and badges. H. Hooper, able seaman, died 1916 on HMS Gibraltar. H. Squires, Oxford and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry, 1918. Nice little epitaph on this stone. Who returned to her maker, age 33. A.E. Keeling, Worcestershire Regiment, 1919, age 21. Section here of smaller stones. It looks as though these are children's graves. There's a Winnie the Pooh lying there. There's a couple of little monuments there. We come over here. There's a stone in the outline of a rabbit. And if we go around the other side, Greg Matthews, who was 4 years old. We come across here, there's a stone in the shape of a bear. A lovely little section here of children that sadly died. And across the path, another section along the same lines. Again, it appears to be children. One there was 1 year old. There's one here shaped like a bear, Riley Gardner. One behind to Benson Smith, who went to play with the angels. There's a bear looking around a star. This one is colourfully decorated. One over here to Tilly Mae Nolan, Esme Emily Grace Page. A really lovely little spot. Despite the sadness of these children's deaths, this really feels loved and looked after. Born sleeping at 35 weeks. Sounds like a cot death. Terrible shock. And here's one full of toys. One here, a child who's died at age 1. one behind Jasper Biagot, 1 week, and so on. Let me just turn around, just give you another look at these wonderful, colourful commemorations. There's an elaborate slab tomb here. It seems to be based around Henry Tozer Jenkins, and this side is to Elizabeth Lucy, his wife, and this side there is a likeness of Elizabeth Lucy Jenkins. Inscriptions on the other two sides as well, but I'm not clear who Henry Tozer Jenkins was. Elaborately carved one here. Loving memory of Minnie Caroline, the beloved wife of Lieutenant S. Tozer of the Royal Navy, and Samuel Tozer. Well, I'm going to call that a day now. We haven't been down into the newer part of the cemetery because there's at least 4 workmen down there with strimmers and blowers keeping the place neat and tidy. And that is one of the outstanding things about this cemetery, is the way it is kept so green and cut back. It's really a pleasure to be here. So that is Torquay Main Cemetery, and I'll leave you with these parting shots.